In the quiet corners of our minds, we often justify them. We call them white lies, small, harmless untruths meant to smooth over a difficult situation or save us from minor embarrassment. We tell ourselves, no one will be hurt by this, it's a temporary fix. But we rarely stop to consider the cost. Because a lie, no matter how small, is never a single event. It is a debt of integrity that demands compounded interest. And the moment we pay that first installment, we don't just solve a problem, we sign a contract with deceit. This is a story about Elias, a man who, like many of us, valued his honesty. He believed in hard work and integrity. But a single moment of immense pressure, one quick, panicked decision, set him on a path that didn't just ruin his career, it unraveled the very fabric of his life. It is the story of the cost of the first lie.
Elias worked as a senior accountant at Sterling & Associates, a mid-sized financial firm in downtown Boston. He wasn't the star of the office, but he was meticulously honest and driven. His biggest motivation wasn't the corner office, but the comfortable home he wanted to buy for his family. His fiancée, Sarah, was pregnant with their first child. The clock was ticking. They needed a down payment, and Elias needed his stable, high-paying job. One Tuesday morning, the pressure exploded. Elias discovered a $500 discrepancy in a major quarterly report he was overseeing. It was a minor error in the grand scheme of things, a misplaced decimal, a simple oversight, but it was his mistake, and it came at the worst possible time. The report was due to the executive board in less than an hour. If he owned up to the mistake, it would delay the report, cost the company a small penalty, and, critically, land a major black mark on his file. A black mark he couldn't afford with the company's recent rounds of cost-cutting. He stared at the numbers. $500, a tiny fraction of the overall budget, but a number that felt enormous in his anxious mind. He remembered David. David was a junior accountant who had left the firm 2 months prior. David's work wasn't perfect. His reputation was adequate. Elias's supervisor, Mr. Harrison, a man who valued efficiency above all else, called him into his office. "Elias, the report, is it good to go? I'm sending it up in 10 minutes. I need 0 surprises." Elias felt his heart hammering against his ribs. "Just tell the truth. It's $500. You can fix it." But the image of Sarah and the small blue house they dreamed of flashed in his mind. Honesty felt like a luxury he couldn't afford. "Mr. Harrison, everything is clean, almost. There was a small $500 error from the previous quarter. I traced it back. It looks like a calculation error by David before he left. I've corrected it in the final submission. It won't affect anything now." David, huh? Always a bit sloppy. "Fine. Just make sure everything else is bulletproof. Send it." And just like that, it was done. The lie had been planted. It was a perfect lie, plausible, untraceable, and pinning the blame on a ghost who couldn't defend himself. Elias felt a profound wave of relief wash over him, immediately followed by a sickly churn in his stomach. The problem was solved, but his conscience had been fundamentally compromised. He had crossed a moral line to save his future, and the price tag on that future was the integrity of an innocent man. The immediate effect of the lie was exactly what Elias had hoped for. Nothing. The report went through. His file was clean. Mr. Harrison gave him a nod of approval. Elias convinced himself the small nod of guilt he felt was merely the trauma of a close call. He was back on track. But a lie is never content to remain small. It needs feeding. It demands a habitat. The first lie had simply purchased him time. It had not bought him freedom. 3 weeks later, the true consequences began to emerge. Sterling & Associates announced an unexpected internal audit, a deep dive into the last 6 months of financial records prompted by a recent merger. The lead auditor, Ms. Anya Sharma, was known for her unforgiving forensic detail. Mr. Harrison called Elias into his office again, but this time his tone was frantic. "The auditors are here, Elias. They want everything, and I mean everything, including that David situation. Sharma's team is meticulous. If they find that $500 discrepancy, even if it's corrected, they'll demand the documentation proving David was responsible. They want the original entry, the cross-references, everything. I want you to make sure there are no loose ends. Do you understand?" Elias felt the air drain from the room. The initial lie, a quick spoken sentence, now required documentation. It demanded creation. He was forced to move from mere verbal deceit to full-blown fraud. To protect the $500 lie, he had to invest hours creating fake entries, backdating emails, and manufacturing a paper trail of incompetence designed to perfectly frame David. He spent the next 2 weeks living a double life. By day, he was the calm, efficient accountant. By night, he was a forger, meticulously fabricating a digital trail that would damn his former colleague. The physical toll was immense. He was living on coffee and adrenaline, the perpetual fear of a single typo, a single inconsistency, unraveling his whole facade. One night, working late, he nearly slipped. Sarah called, worried about his long hours. "Elias, you sound exhausted. Is everything okay? You keep saying long hours, but you look terrified." "I'm fine, honey. Just merger stuff. So much paperwork. I'm pulling double shifts for that down payment. Don't worry, I just need to get through this audit." There it was, a second layer of deceit, a lie to Sarah, cloaked in the noble excuse of providing for their family. The lie was now consuming his personal life, warping his motives, turning his ambition into a cloak for his crime. He didn't just lie to others, he was now lying to himself, convincing himself this was all necessary for a good outcome. The deeper Elias sank into the deception, the heavier the psychological burden became. Integrity is the foundation of a stable mind. Once compromised, the whole structure shakes. Elias developed classic symptoms of intense anxiety. He started looking over his shoulder, even when alone. A knock on his office door would send a jolt of panic through him. He began isolating himself. His usual Friday night ritual with friends was replaced by panicked hours verifying his fake spreadsheets. He couldn't risk having a conversation where an innocent question about his workload might force him to improvise another lie. Every social interaction became a minefield. His relationship with Sarah suffered most. She noticed the distance, the coldness, the irritability. "Elias, what is it? I feel like I'm living with a ghost. You don't look at me anymore. You don't talk about anything but the audit. Is there another woman? Is it something worse?" "It's the job, Sarah. It's always the job. Don't you understand the pressure I'm under? If I mess this up, we lose everything. Can't you just trust me to handle it?" "Trust me." The words felt hollow, a desperate plea from a man who no longer trusted himself. He couldn't confess. The moment he admitted the first lie, the avalanche would begin. He was trapped in an impossible feedback loop. The anxiety from the lie led to more emotional distance, which required more lies to cover the distance, which created more anxiety. One evening, Sarah, heartbroken by his withdrawal, gently pressed him. She found one of his hastily written notes with David's old work crossed out and a set of fraudulent dates scribbled next to it. "Elias, what is it? I found this. Why are you writing notes about David's old work? He hasn't worked here for months. What does create cross-ref mean? Just tell me what's wrong." He snatched the note back, his voice rising in a fury he immediately regretted. "It's nothing. It's just notes from the audit. Complex accounting terms. You wouldn't understand. Stop digging!" Sarah stepped back, her face pale. This wasn't the man she was going to marry. This man was aggressive, cornered, and volatile. He had successfully driven her away, protecting his lie at the expense of his deepest bond. The lie was a monster, and it was now demanding human sacrifice. Elias had operated under the delusion that David, being gone, was a safe target, a non-player in his drama. He couldn't have been more wrong. Integrity is a currency in the financial world, and David's was about to be devalued entirely. 2 months after the audit concluded, successfully due to Elias's masterful forgery, David applied for a highly coveted managerial position at a rival firm, Omnicorp. He was the perfect candidate until Omnicorp ran a deep background check and contacted Sterling and Associates. The records provided by Sterling, the records Elias fabricated, detailed a pattern of severe neglect and financial discrepancies tied to David's departure. David was rejected. His career effectively stalled. Confused and desperate, David drove to Sterling and Associates, demanding an explanation. He found Elias in the break room, pale and trying to look busy. "Elias, we need to talk. Omnicorp just rejected me. They cited a failure of integrity linked to my time here. Something about a $500 error in subsequent documentation. What the hell is going on? Did Harrison say something?" Elias's mind raced. This was the moment of truth. He could confess now, take the fall, save David, and lose everything. Or he could double down. Elias became cold and professional. "David, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm sorry about your application, but you know your work here wasn't always clean. The auditors found some things. I just had to present the facts as they were. It's out of my hands now." David pleaded. "No, Elias, you were the one handling that book. Tell me honestly, did you see anything? You and I were friends. Did you check the records? Because I swear I didn't make a mistake that big." The plea for friendship and truth pierced through Elias's armor, but the fear of losing his future was stronger. He felt a chilling new sensation, not just panic, but hostility toward David for threatening his comfort. Elias was firm and leaned in. "Listen to me, David. The audit is closed. The paperwork is finalized. If you start digging now, you'll be questioning a multi-million-dollar merger. You'll be labeled an agitator. If I were you, I'd drop this right now. Find another job and leave Sterling out of it, for your own sake." It was not a friendly warning. It was a cold, calculated threat. David saw the truth in Elias's eyes, not the truth of the $500, but the truth of the man he had become, a predator willing to sacrifice an innocent to maintain his fabricated reality. David left, defeated and silenced. Elias walked back to his desk, but his temporary victory felt like a defeat. He had not just lied, he had actively destroyed a person's life to protect his original lie. The $500 mistake had already cost David his career and Elias his soul. The empire built on deceit is inherently fragile. Elias's downfall was not a dramatic confrontation, but a technicality. Miss Sharma, the lead auditor, was preparing her final report months later. She noticed a subtle inconsistency. The fake records Elias had created to frame David used a slightly different date format than the firm's standard internal memos from that quarter. A microscopic flaw, but enough for a forensic accountant. She decided to cross-reference Elias's internal entries with the original server backups, the files he thought were deleted. She discovered a pattern of sophisticated manipulation. It wasn't just the $500 error, it was evidence of a systematic effort to fabricate financial history. Miss Sharma didn't just find a liar, she found a criminal. The final meeting was swift and brutal. Mr. Harrison, pale with betrayal, and Miss Sharma, cold and professional, waited for Elias. Narrator as Miss Sharma, clinical. Mr. Elias, we are not interested in the $500. We are interested in the fact that your current financial records do not match the previous server state. The backdated documents you provided were not from David. They were created by your terminal after David's departure. You didn't just make an error, you manufactured a crime. Narrator as Elias, voice breaking. I was trying to fix it. I was under pressure. It was just a small thing. The merger needed to go through. Narrator as Mr. Harrison, furious. You didn't fix anything, Elias. You put this entire firm and my career at risk with your pathetic web of lies. We found the records. We know you framed David. You're finished here. The police are on their way. You face charges of criminal fraud and falsifying records. Narrator. Elias was escorted out of the building in handcuffs. The ambition, the house, the baby, Sarah, it all vanished in one moment. The physical reality of the lie finally caught up to him. As he was led past the lobby, he saw a woman standing near the entrance, Sarah. She wasn't angry. She was utterly broken, holding a newspaper with the headline, "Accountant Charged in Massive Fraud Case." She didn't even look at him. She just shook her head, a silent, definitive goodbye to the man she thought she knew. The small lie, the tiny, harmless deceit, had not saved his job. It had bought him a prison sentence and a lifetime of irreparable loss.
Elias served his time, but the walls of the prison were not the only confinement he endured. His real prison was the knowledge of his failure. Sarah, unable to reconcile the man she loved with the deceitful stranger who destroyed an innocent life, left him. The child he lied for would grow up knowing his father as a convicted felon. Lying, Elias realized, is not an action, it's a chain reaction. Years later, a free man, but burdened by a guilt heavier than any sentence, Elias sought only one thing: forgiveness from David. It took months, but Elias finally found an address and sent a handwritten letter explaining the panic, the original lie, and the terrible domino effect. He asked for nothing but 5 minutes to apologize. David's reply was short and final. "I don't want your apology, Elias. Your 5 minutes cost me 5 years of my career, my savings, and my trust in humanity. Your lie wasn't a mistake, it was a choice that you reinforced over and over. You have your freedom. I want nothing more from you. Please never contact me again." David's refusal was the final, devastating payment. The lie was not simply a scar on Elias's life, it was a permanent, gaping wound in David's. The $500 mistake could have been solved with $500 worth of discomfort, a reprimand, a minor delay. Instead, he chose a lie, and the cost of that single lie was everything. It cost him his sanity, forcing him to live in a perpetual state of fear and isolation. It cost him his love, driving away the woman who was his reason for striving. It cost him his future, replacing his dream home with a cell. Most tragically, it cost an innocent man, David, his reputation and his livelihood, leaving an unpayable debt of conscience. The true price of the first lie is not the immediate consequence, it is the subsequent lies it requires to maintain itself. It's the compounding interest of a moral debt. It is the destruction of your capacity to trust yourself and your ability to be trusted by others. Every great failure starts with a small compromise.
Every descent into darkness is initiated by a single, seemingly minor decision to take the easier, dishonest path. Elias, sitting alone, finally understood the profound truth. Honesty is not just a virtue, it is the most effective form of self-preservation. When you choose truth, you are choosing to deal with the real problem once. When you choose a lie, you are choosing to manufacture 1,000 new problems that will eventually consume you. Sound. Music swells slightly, then fades to a soft hold. Narrator. Ask yourself today, what is the $500 lie you are holding on to? Are you willing to pay the total cost? Choose truth, even when it is difficult, because the road of honesty, though steep, is the only one that leads to true peace.